Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another sew along, another full tutorial for you today. Easy DIY for this makeup bag and lip caddy. So let's jump right into it. And remember, if you did not catch it last week, I did do a full sew along for a dress. So I will leave that link up in the iCard and you can go check that sew along out. But today is all about makeup. And so, yeah, I have to say first, I have made this before. If you did not see the video, I made a complete set with the Swoon Bonnie bucket bag, the Devon pouch, along with this Transcendence makeup set I made for my friend Myra. I'll pop up a picture here and then you can go back and watch the full video on that and how that went. But I love this makeup set. It is so super cute. Here it is, fully put together, and also my matching lip caddy, which matches the interior here. So I have my complete set here. I want to thank Abby from Justin E Handmade. I will leave a link to everything that I mentioned in the video down in the description box, so make sure you go check it out. Abby has agreed to a discount. If you saw my previous video announcing this so long, you would have seen the discount, but I'll leave all the discount information down below in the description box, so make sure you go check it out. You have until June 30th to use the discount to go ahead and grab your pattern, and plus you can use the discount towards a couple other patterns as well. So like I said, for the video, you will see from beginning to end today how to put both the Palace bag together as well as the lip caddy. But first, as you know, like I do with all of my sew alongs, go ahead to the first comment down below. You will see timestamps. So if you want to jump ahead or skip around or come back to certain parts, you can do that just by clicking on the timestamp that's down below in the pinned comment. So let's go over the supplies that you'll need. Very simple supplies or notions, I would say, to put this together. You will need some thread. I have used the Gutermann 70 weight thread. That is just something that works for me, works in my machine. The machine I am using is a domestic machine. It is the Janome HD 3000, which I have done a complete review, demo and review on. If you're interested in that, I'll link that also up in the iCards at the top. So far as needle, I used a denim needle for this entire project, and so you can use a denim needle. Now it depends on the fabric that you're using. If you're using just regular quilting cotton fabric, you can just use a standard needle, but because I use the vinyl, I did use a denim needle. I also use, and you'll see this when I go over the supplies, I also use woven fuse too. The only thing I'm a little bummed about, and I did discover this during the sew along, is that I wanted to use, and I will pop this up here so you can see it, I wanted to make the interior of my bag waterproof by using this Pellon matte vinyl fuse. Unfortunately, I thought I had a whole roll and I grabbed it and I was all ready to use it, and turns out it's just the carrier sheet. I actually save the carrier sheets for other projects and different things like that, because I have a heat press, so you can use this carrier sheet. So for those who do have it, save your carrier sheets, don't throw it away. You can use it to use for your heat press if you're pressing other things. And so I didn't realize that I had used up the entire roll. So, but what I did do during the sew along is show you where in the process you would add that waterproof vinyl to your project if you choose to use it. The entire bag is sewn at 3/8 inch seam allowance, and unless stated otherwise throughout the project. Now, let me just show you real quick, and I'll come back in after the sew along just to show you how I use my makeup products for both the lip caddy and as well as for the Palace bag. But the lip caddy is really simple. The first one that I made, actually, let me close it. The first one that I made was made out of vinyl. I used clear vinyl. This time I did use the fabric, and I do have a snap on the front. As she states for the lip caddy, I'm looking at my notes, it's a compact case for carrying lip colors of all sizes, or mascara or eye color sticks. It's a one-piece construction. It is very quick. It is a perfect stash buster. And the one thing that I do like about it is that you can change the dimensions of this lip caddy to carry an inhaler or an EpiPen. She do have in the instructions how you can convert something simple like this to hold an inhaler or an EpiPen, and put a little logo on the front for medical, so people know. And you can also cute that up. You can embroider it if you're doing something like that. But anyway, she does have instructions on how to convert this into something like that. So if you find that something that you would also like to make, definitely use that pattern to make that. So far as the Palace bag, so you will notice that there is a zipper in the front, and then this section here, this is where you can slide a full-size palette inside, and then the on the inside you have different pockets. So you have one large slip pocket here, and then you have compartmentalized slip pockets here as well. And then on the back you have a flap where you can put something as well in the back. And so you can make this either out of cork, vinyl, or fabric. As you know, I have used this vinyl, and I will talk about that. I'll talk about all the supplies and everything that you will need in the sew along. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so let's start with the supplies that we will need. I will start first with the lip caddy. I am doing the large version. So as you see here, I'll turn this sideways so you can see it. So this is the large version. You will need to go ahead and cut your pattern piece. It is 5.5 inches wide by 12 inches in height. And so what you're going to do is, and I'm doing the fabric version, so for the lip caddy, again, you have the option of using either a raw edge such as a vinyl or cork, but I am doing the fabric version. So you will go ahead and cut out your pattern piece and go ahead and cut 2 fabric and 1 interfacing. And the interfacing that I will be using for the entire project today, for both the Transcendence, the Palace bag, as well as the lip caddy, is the Woven Fuse 2. Okay, or you can use Pelon SF 101, whichever you have in your stash. And then along with this, you will also either use a magnetic snap, or you can choose to use cam snaps. And so I will be using cam snaps. This is my package of snaps. I will be using more than likely one of the, either the dark yellow or the orange color here. Haven't decided yet, but it will be between these two that I will use for my snaps, and I will show you how I apply those later on in the sew along. We are going to, for this particular project, I am using actually zipper tape, and this is Zipper by the Yard. As you can tell here, I've cut this to 25 inches. You need 22 inch if you're using zipper tape. You need 22 inches in length, and it's either a 4.5 or a number 5 zipper tape. And the the 4.5 or 5 is based on the width of the teeth. So you will know that based on the type of zipper tape that you have. However, if you are using pre-made zippers, a 16-inch long zipper and a 6-inch long zipper pull are recommended, because you are using this in there's a 2 zipper pull on top and the 1 on the side, so you will see that. If you are using zipper tape, you will need zipper pulls. And so I do have my zipper pulls here. These are nice flower zipper pulls, and so I will be using these. These are number 5 zipper pulls for the number 5 zipper tape. So now for our pattern piece. You will notice with the pattern, you're only getting one pattern piece, and it is this piece. It is the flap pattern piece, and you can use this for the cork or vinyl as well. And so I am using the vinyl. I will show you my fabric here shortly that I'll be using, but you want to go ahead and print this out. Make sure the dimensions are right. You print it at 100%. Make sure your dimensions are right. There are other fabric pieces that you will need to cut, and so I will go over those now, which is also listed. Go to page 3 of your cutting instructions. She has listed everything there that you will need. And so let me go ahead and share with you, because I've made it already. All of my pieces are cut out already. So this is the actual pattern piece, is the flap. Go ahead and print this off and cut this out. And just in case you would like to use mesh for your front pocket, this is, I have this in my stash. I have purchased this from By Annie's. It's a lightweight mesh fabric that you can use for bags and whatnot. This is, I just want to show you what it looks like in the event you do want to use mesh as an option. It's just a really nice sturdy fabric, as you can tell. It's more like one of those utility fabrics, but this is a really nice quality mesh fabric. If you do decide to use this, you don't need a lot of it. So if you did buy a package of this, you can most certainly use the rest of it for other projects, other bag projects, other things that you might have going on, which is what I have done. Okay, so I am using this beautiful, it looks like a it's a faux vinyl. It's a vinyl that I had purchased, that was in my stash, that I had purchased maybe a couple months ago from Joann Fabrics that I had in my stash. And so I am using that today, and it is kind of a crocodile, as you can tell. Very pretty, love it. And then for my interior, which is a batik, a cotton batik, which I've also had in my stash here for a couple months. But this here is what I'll use as my interior, and what I will also use for my lip caddy. So remember, my lip caddy is a, I'm using fabric. So this is the fabric that I'm using. And I'll decide what color snap I want to use for that. Not quite sure yet. Probably this one. Blends in pretty well. So yes, and then let me show you the clear vinyl that I'll be using for the outside of the Palace bag. So this is the clear vinyl I'm using. I've had this for months. I believe this is like an 11, it might be known as an 11 gauge. Not sure if you can see this. Let me unfold this. Okay, you can see it better here, but it's thick enough to sew through. I want to say it's like an 11 gauge, I believe. I've had this for months. Also, I had purchased this, a big chunk of it from Joann's, quite probably either late last year or early this year. And so I did have some of this. You can find materials like this also on Etsy, as well as My Punk Broidery as an option as well. But yeah, this is the clear vinyl that I will use for the front of my Palace bag. So go ahead, cut all of your pieces out. I will come back when all of my pieces are cut and I am ready to sew. Okay, I wanted to pop in for two things, just in case you don't know what Woven Fuse 2 looks like. It looks just like the SF101. Again, I received this from Barb's Bags, and so I'll leave a link to her website down below, and so you'll know when she gets new shipments in. But it's pretty thick, very sturdy, very nice. And so that is what I am going to use for my interfacing. The other thing I want to come back in, I forgot to mention, is that the pattern for the Palace bag calls for double fold binding to finish the edges of the vinyl or the mesh, or bias tape can be used, or 2 strips that do not have to be on the bias. 2-inch strips you can cut that does not have to be on the bias, can be made into double fold binding. And so what I did for my first bag and what I'll do for this one, I am using pre-packaged double fold bias tape, and the kind I had in my stash, I've had this for years, no, maybe 2 years. I had bought this in a closeout sale from So Much Fabric she was having. They were like 10 cent or 12 cent a pack. But at any rate, I have not decided which color I'm going to use. So these are the 3 colors that I have. I don't know if I want a pop of yellow because the interior is yellow, or if I want something more subtle on the outside like this, or more of this brown version on the outside. I don't know yet, but I did forget to mention that. And so just want to pop in real quick and share that. Okay, so all of my pattern pieces are cut out. One of the things I wanted to do and was planning for the sew along is to waterproof the inside. I wanted to show that entire process. I have what I thought was quite a bit of matte vinyl fuse. This is Pellon. This is by Pellon, and I'll leave a link to it down below just so you know what it looks like. Maybe I can find it on Amazon, but this was something I already had in my stash. But it's a flexible iron-on vinyl protection, so you can make your fabrics waterproof. And so for cosmetic bags like this, I would highly recommend making the inside waterproof. But when I was about to cut and film this roll that I see, this is empty. This is actually nothing but the carrier that's left. So unfortunately, I cannot show you how to waterproof. However, what I will say, if you have this, or if you plan to get this, some vinyl fuse before you sew up the Palace bag, when you cut out all of your interior lining pieces, go ahead. The next step you want to do is fuse the vinyl onto your interior fabric pieces. And that is what I was intending to show you until I realized I didn't have any more. So sorry about that, everybody, but we are going to go ahead and get to sewing. Okay, so we are going to start our sew along doing our lip caddy. And remember, I am using fabric for this. It is washable, so I decided I wanted to use fabric for the lip caddy, but again, you can use vinyl or cork. So following the instructions for the fabric caddy, it starts on page 7 of the lip caddy instructions. So go ahead and grab your instructions. And so what you're going to do here is, you should already have one piece already that has the interfacing on, and one piece that is not interface. So here are my wrong sides. So what I am going to do is place these 2 fabric pieces right sides together and clip into place. And then what I will do is sew all the way around the edges with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And what you want to do is leave a 3-inch turning gap along the bottom short end, and be sure to backstitch at the start and stop of the turning gap. So what you can essentially do, if you would like, start at the bottom and go a 1/4 inch all the way around, up this way, turning, coming back around, and starting and stop, leaving that 3-inch turning gap. Or if you want to leave a little bit more than 3 inches, you can do that as well. Okay, now that you have sewn everything around, go ahead and trim the seam allowance down to 1/8 of an inch at the corners only. So make sure you get the corners here and the corners here and trim down at the corners only 1/8 of an inch, and then you're going to turn this entire piece right side out and press it well, and be sure the corners are nicely pointed out, and also press the seam allowance in evenly at the gap. And so I will show you that when I get there. And this is what it looks like when it's trimmed at the corner. Just want you to see how that looks before I go ahead and turn this out, and then press it really good, and then I will iron in this short end here. Okay, now you want to go ahead and top stitch down at that bottom edge to close that seam allowance that you had turned in and pressed. You want to go ahead and use a 1/4 inch stitch in the top stitch length, and I used a length of 3.5 along the bottom here. And then what you want to do is with the interior of the body facing up. So for me, that is the non-interface side is what I'm using as my interior. You want to have that facing up. And then what you want to do is make light marks on each long side here, so on both of these sides. So I will zoom in so you can see. I made a mark here 3 inches up from the bottom, and I made a mark here 3 inches from the bottom. Then what you're going to do is just fold this up, clip it into place. So here it is clipped into place, and what you want to do is flip it over and begin to top stitch from this end all the way up to the corner, down, around. Now this is the outside, so that's why I flipped it over and go all the way back down. And so what you're doing is using a 1/4 of an inch all the way around with the top stitching, and you're going to back stitch at the top edges of the pocket on each side to secure. So essentially these areas where you want to secure, because that is where you'll be it'll have the most friction there, because you'll be taking and putting in lip glosses and lipsticks, things of that nature. Now you will notice in the instructions before this you would have marked where your snap is going. I am using my cam snaps, but I want my snap exposed. So I did this on my other one that I put together. So what I am doing is first doing this section first, doing the top stitching around. Then I'm going to fold down to where I feel it's about comfortable where I want my snap to go, and I'll show you that. And I'm going to mark where I want my snap to go. Then I will install my snap. So I will show you that next part. Okay, so now that that is done, what I've done now, because now I'm doing my placement mark for my snap, you do want to go ahead just to make sure there's clearance here and everything is nice and even. Go ahead with the pocket facing up like this, measure over 1.5 inches from the long edge to make marks at the top and bottom of the pocket. And so essentially you're going to measure from this end inward 1.5 inches, from this side inward 1.5 inches, and I used a disappearing marker here, and I just drew a line. You want to mark the top and the bottoms and draw the lines down, because what you're going to end up doing after you've done your snap is sewing these lines sewing down this line, and your caddy will be complete. But let me show you how I am going to mark my snap placement. So what I have done is put a pin in where I see the center marking is. I know how long my lip glosses are. I usually have longer lip glosses, so you can measure this. Go ahead and put your lip gloss in, because then that'll let you know how much of a clearance you have, or if you want to bring it down further. If you have shorter lipsticks, it's totally up to you. Or you might want to use this for mascaras or something else. But what I did was go ahead and mark with the pen. And what I'm doing is using my disappearing ink. I'm going to mark right where I want my snap to go. I'm going to mark all these areas. As you can see here, I have marked all of the areas, and now I am going to go over to my table press and add my snaps, and I will show you that as well. Okay, so I am about to put my snaps in. I have the cam press, table press, and I have a separate video for this. I will leave it in the iCards up above, and you can go back and see the full unboxing if you're interested in this. But what I have is the plastic snaps, no change dies. So here are my cap, my female, and my male piece. So currently what I have in is the hole punch. I want to go ahead and punch my hole, and remember, I just marked where I want my hole to go for both pieces. If you remember, on both sides, see the hole there, the marking there, and the marking there. So I'm just going to go ahead and place my hole there. And as you can see, that made a nice little punch. And here, and because I'm using fabric, it's easy just to move this out of the way and create my hole. And so now what I want to do, I'm going to change out my die and punch and put in my plastic snap no change die. Here we are. Alrighty, she is done. I have sewn down the lines. The snap is on. Easy breezy. A perfect scrap buster. And I also for the ends here, I went ahead and burned my ends. I use this here for that. When I need to burn my ends and I have little stragglies like this, I will go in and just melt those ends off. It keeps it from fraying and all that good stuff. But yeah, and I'll have links to tools and whatnot in the description box in my Amazon store. But we are done with the lip caddy. Very cute. Let's go ahead and move on and start with our Palace bag. Okay, so all of your Palace bag pieces should be interfaced. Because I am using a vinyl for my exterior, I have decided to fuse my fleece onto my interior fabric. So I have on here both woven fuse 2 as well as the fleece. And you can see that here. So go ahead and grab your interior exterior body pieces, both pieces facing right side up, and you want to make sure that the short side 9 inches is here and the 14 inches is here. what you're going to do is measure and cut on each corner at the bottom a 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch square. So you can do this on your cutting mat, but just for purposes of the video, I have a 2-inch ruler here, and I can easily see, and I would cut this on my cutting mat, but I'm going to just show you here. This is set at 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch. I'm just going to draw a line around this for both my pieces on both ends, and then cut those out. I will show you what that looks like. As you can see here, I marked 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch. I am going to do that to both pieces on both corners, and then I will show you what we will do next. Okay, now in both of your interior pieces should have the corners cut out. And do remember, you want to cut those 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch from your exterior pieces as well. We are going to go ahead and set this to the side just for a moment. And now bring in your pocket C. You have used either the vinyl or you have used the mesh. So what you want to do is measure in. This is the top left corner. You want to measure in 2 inches and make a mark. And then at the bottom, draw a line. You'll probably need to use your ruler, because what you want to do is draw a line from this corner to meet this top corner here, because what you're going to do is cut this piece off. So then that's where you'll get that angle piece for the front of your palettes bag. Okay, now that you have cut that corner off, go ahead and grab your 2 inch by 4 inch piece, and what you're going to do is place it. This is the right side facing up. This is the right side of your pattern piece. Place it down. And what you're going to do is clip these together. I highly recommend, if I didn't mention it already, use your Wonder Clips throughout. But go ahead and clip all the way here, all the way down. And then you want to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And once you have sewn a 1/4 inch seam allowance, you're going to open it up, and it's going to be facing up, and you're going to have that seam allowance facing this way. You're then gonna top stitch through the exterior pocket side piece and that seam allowance by 1/8 of an inch all the way down. So again, first start right sides together. Go ahead and stitch 1/4 of an inch down. Then you're going to finger press this open to your right, and then top stitch 1/8 of an inch down. I will show you what that looks like. And do note, I am using my walking foot here for this section because I am using the vinyl, and so I have decided to keep my walking foot on for the entire project if I did not mention that already. All right, let's get to sewing. So now that you have your vinyl piece, this end is attached, go ahead and grab your binding. I have decided to use my brown one out of the 3 that I showed you. And so what you will notice is that if you're using pre-made binding, this is a double fold. It comes like this, and it has that center piece. What you want to do, you only need 5 inches of this. But I'm just going to show you so you can cut it off at 5 inches, or you can do it like this. Go ahead and place your piece of vinyl or mesh, if you're using it, inside the fold to secure it at 3/8 inch from the fold. So essentially, oh, there, you can see that. So here's the center. Go ahead and place the vinyl in that fold, and just to give myself some overhang, because that can be cut off at the top or bottom, Make sure it's secured all, and then use your wonder clips to secure it in place. But then what you want to do is sew to secure at 3/8 inch from the fold. So this is the fold of your binding. Hopefully you can see that. Let me use a different marker. This is the fold of the binding. So 3/8 inch from this fold, go ahead and sew to secure the binding in place. Okay, now that you have your binding on here on the end, grab your 6-inch zipper. Make sure that the zipper is facing right side up. And then you're going to lay this flat, and then take the right side of your pocket. You're going to lay it on top of your zipper. Remember, this is 6 inches, so you do have a little extra real estate here. So just be careful when laying it down. You want to make sure that you lay the binding on top of the zipper. And what you're going to do is sew this in place at 1/8 inch right here. Let me zoom in so you can see. So you're going to stitch 1/8 of an inch right here along this area, this entire area here, from the top all the way down at the bottom. And then you're going to trim both ends of the zipper and any excess binding on both the top and bottom so that it is even with the rest of the pocket. So you want all of this even. And then you want to, just to keep the zipper pull from sliding off, go ahead and secure that bottom edges down here and up here at the top, so it doesn't slide off or come off at the bottom during the rest of the construction of our palace bag. Okay, now that you have this sewn and you kind of clipped, you secured your ends so the zipper pull doesn't fall off, go ahead and grab the rest of your binding. And what you're going to do is the exact same thing we did here with this raw edge. You're going to encase the raw edge here. You're going to make sure this is even. And the bottom is even as well. But you're going to encase all of this in the binding from this end all the way to this end, as well as this end all the way over to this end. And you're going to make sure that you're also encasing the zipper end as well. Sew everything in place just like you did here with 3/8 inch seam allowance, and then trim any excess from the ends. So again, like I said before, I put extra binding just so it doesn't matter if there's going to be overhang, that'll be covered up later. But just to make sure that you have enough binding on the bottom and then on the top. I will show you what it looks like once I have everything clipped in place. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Once you have your binding on, as you can tell, it is clipped all the way down. You're covering your zipper end. You're doing the top and the bottom. Isn't that so cute how this is being finished off? But go ahead and sew the binding in place. Again, you're sewing it in place using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And then we will set this off to the side. We will come back to it, and next we'll start on our exterior back pocket. But let's go ahead and sew this into place, which I will do off camera because of the vinyl. I just want to make sure everything stays straight. But I will be back once it's all complete and we're moving on to our next part. So this is how she looking, all sewn up. Isn't it cute? That's the top. This is the wrong side. As you can tell, nice clean finish. This is going to be so super cute. So go ahead, we're going to start on our exterior back pocket. Okay, now take your exterior back pocket piece, and remember that was the piece that's clear. You are using either vinyl or mesh, but I am using vinyl. And so that 5-inch wide, 4-inch high vinyl piece, as you can kind of see here, I know I'm using clear, but have that piece here. And what you want to do is take your binding, once again the exact same thing. Go ahead and place your vinyl inside the fold. I'm just going to fold this here so you can see. And you can have a little binding hanging over just to give you some extra wiggle room and space. And what you're going to do is clip it at the top. Once everything is clipped here at the top, you're going to sew with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and then again at a 1/8 inch seam allowance from the folded edge. So go ahead and take this over to the machine and sew first at 3/8 inch seam allowance, and then with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Go ahead and set this off to the side and grab your flat piece. So go ahead and grab your flat pattern piece. Once you have that, if you are using vinyl like I am, all you're going to do is stitch 1/4 inch on the sides and across the bottom and back up. That is it. However, if you're using fabric, you're going to need to put the 2 flat pieces right sides together, sew all the way around with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, leaving a 2-inch turning gap along the top straight edge. Trim the seam allowance at the corners carefully, then turn the pocket right side out through the turning gap and then press it really well. Being sure to press the seam allowance in evenly along the turning gap that you would have had to do. And then once that is done, go ahead and set your flat pattern piece off to the side. Okay, now grab your interior palette pocket pieces, which is piece A. What you want to do is place these 2 pieces right sides together like such. Let me just show you here. Place them right sides together, making sure everything is nice and even. And what you're going to do is stitch all the way around at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but leave a 3-inch gap. And I would say leave the gap at the bottom because one end will be the top. I would say leave the bottom open as your turning gap, but go ahead and back stitch where you start and stop all the way around till you get 3 inches from the other end where you started. So again, you want to leave a good 3 inches here, a little wider if you so choose. And then you're going to set this off to the side. But first, again, we're going to clip and then clip or pin and then sew 1/4 inch all the way around. Okay, now that I have sewn all the way around, I am now going to just slightly trim my corners by 1/8 inch here. Trim each corner as we did with the lip caddy corner. Go ahead and trim. Then you're going to turn it right side out, press it, turning in the gap towards the inside, and then we're going to top stitch on the exterior. Once you've turned this right side out, we're going to top stitch it at 1/8 inch seam allowance, which will secure the gap closed. I will show you what that looks like when it's all done. Okay, this is turned right side out, and I have top stitch. For me, I call this my bottom. And then we're going to go ahead and set this aside for now. Okay, now go ahead and grab your interior divided slip pocket, and so that is piece B. You're going to do the exact same thing you just did with the other slip pocket piece. The other pocket piece, you're going to put them right sides together. As you can see here, I have marked my gap opening. Again, I'm going to stitch all the way around with the 1/4 inch seam allowance, starting and stopping. Make sure you back stitch here at the beginning and end. And then you're going to flip it right side out with that turning gap. Go ahead, press that inward and then top stitch along the bottom just like you did with the other pocket. Okay, just like before, we've turned it right side out and we top stitch at that close to close up that gap. What we're going to do now is set this aside for now. Okay, now grab one of your exterior pieces and grab your completed pocket, this piece, and what you're going to do is measure from here 1.75 inches down and mark it. As you can see, I have drawn a line. If you're using vinyl, a really good tool to use is this is from Tandy Leather. I'll leave a link to it in my Amazon store, but this allows you to at least mark vinyl and see it clearly. What you want to do is make sure you have measured 1.75 inches from the top, and then you want to make sure this side is even with this entire edge. And then on this end, what you want to do is using another marking pencil, draw a line along the edge of the zipper to mark the placement. So I have done that. If you can see, here's my line. It's a faint white line, but that's where I marked my spot. Next, you want to take the front palette pocket piece and flip it over vertically, which is like this, so that the right side of the zipper is now face down. So here's the right side of our zipper. It is facing down. And face it down 1/4 inch inside that marking line. So here's your marking line, remember? So let me move this over so you can see. So you want to place this 1/4 inch inside that marking line. And what you want to do is sew at 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you can pin this in place or glue it in place depending on what you're using. And then you want to sew this in place, making sure to backstitch well at the start and the stop here, because what you're going to do once that's sewn here, this is going to flip back over and it's going to look something like this, and this edge will meet back up over here. So that's the whole purpose of this. So this entire raw edge of the zipper will be hidden like this. And if you do have raw edge at the bottom, you're going to tuck that in just to make sure it is all caught, because once that is done and you have flipped everything back over on this end, you are going to top stitch all the way across the top, and then you're going to top stitch all the way across the bottom, and that secures this pocket completely in place. So I will show you what that looks like once I have sewn this on that 1/4 inch in from that marking line, and I will be right back. Oh, and a real quick tip, I learned this on my first one. So when you are placing this on this the pocket on the top here and you're marking, make sure that there's just a little bit of an overhang here, because what you're doing is taking off some of this length when you sew this side down. And so once you flip this over, you can't see my mark line, but once I sew this over, that's taking away some of the length of this pocket. So when you flip it back over, you want this end to meet. Even if it's hanging over a little bit, that doesn't matter. But on my first one, I found that I had to unpick it, because if I matched up the sides here perfectly like this and then marked, and then I flipped it over, sewed that down, and then once I flipped it back over like this, it was short by that much. So my suggestion is take it out just a little bit, ever so slightly, because you do want this to meet up. Then place your markment down and then stitch, but I'll show you that once it's all done. Okay, just so you can see what I was talking about. So where you stitch here, and once you flip this back over, it needs to meet back at this end. So that's why I started with a little bit of an overhang. And if you have anything hanging on the edge here, you can just turn that under so it's hidden. I will be using my little tool here to push that under, because what you're going to end up doing is smoothing this out. Go ahead and clip it. Make sure everything stays in place down here while you're sewing it. And then you're going to sew along the top and along the bottom to go ahead and secure it in place, and do a top stitch length here and a top stitch length here. Okay, so here she is, all sewn together. You are going to go ahead and set this piece to the side. Grab your other back exterior piece. Okay, now that you have your second exterior back piece, make sure you have marked the center. You can barely see where I marked the center, but what you want to do is make sure this line is centered, but then mark 2 inches down from the top piece, and you can see my 2-inch line. And you're going to take your back piece here, and I've marked the center here with a pin. And what you're going to do is make sure your centers are lined up. Place this top piece on that line that you just marked. Make sure the center is lined up. And what you are going to do is sew in place along the sides and the bottom only with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Because once you have done that, you're going to then attach the flap. And how you're going to attach the flap is 1/4 of an inch above that binding piece. You are going to stitch across, right side up, the top edge at 1/8 inch seam allowance. And then you will have your flap. Once you open it, it will look like this. Then you'll be able to get into your pocket. So I know you can barely see this because I used that clear vinyl, but here it is. Everything is stitched down here. Now I'm going to sew on top off camera. Again, I am placing this about 1/4 of an inch above that binding. Then I'm going to stitch down 1/8 of an inch all the way across. Okay, here it is. Here's my flap is attached. If I flip it up, I can get into my pocket there. So we are going to set this off to the side. Okay, take one of your interior body pieces and lay it right side up. Now place your interior palette pocket piece A right side up on top of it, 1.5 inches down from the top and centered. So what I did was use a pin to center, mark down 1.5 inches, drew another line. Make sure you use a disappearing ink, and then set your pocket piece centered. That's what this is. I'm making sure everything is centered here. And what you are going to do is sew along the sides and bottom to secure it in place at 1/8 inch seam allowance, back stitching well at the start and at the stop. Okay, that is now complete. You can set this one to the side. Grab your other exterior pocket piece here, and you're going to also grab your slip pocket piece B and lay it now right side up on top of it. And again, you're going to center this, fold it, center, fold and center this as well. You're going to measure 2 inches down from the top edge, and again you're going to sew along the sides and the bottom, secure it in place with a 1/8 inch seam allowance, back stitching at the start and stop. And then from there you can decide how you want to divide the pocket based on the products that you will fit inside in this particular pocket. So you can put in here blush, smaller eyeshadow quads, mascara, things of that nature. So I am going to use the measurements that was used in the pattern. But let me go ahead and stitch this in place, and then I will show you how I marked it. Okay, now that I have secured my second interior pocket piece to the interior, I went ahead and marked. What I did was use the dimensions. I was fine with the dimensions that was listed in the pattern. And what I used was I measured from this end over 3.5 inches, marked a line, use a disappearing pen, be sure. And then this second line, because this will hold a mascara, I am marking from this end over 7 inches. And then what you want to do is go ahead and sew along the dividing lines from top to bottom to divide the pocket, back stitching well at the start and stop. Okay, there you have it. The pockets are now sewn into place, and now we are going to move on to the final construction of our makeup bag. Okay, we are in the final construction phase. Go ahead and grab your front exterior body piece and lay it right side up, and then take your zipper. You have your double zipper pull. If you use zipper tape, make sure you have sewn, you can barely see it there, but sew at both ends, sew across the zipper tape so your zipper pulls do not accidentally slide off or anything during the rest of the construction. So what you're going to do is lay your zipper down, face down. So it's 16 inches wide. It is 16 inches in length, and so it is a little longer than the body piece, which is fine. And so what I will do first is go ahead, and it is recommended you can do this. You can either clip this in place, glue it in place, and then put your interior piece on top. But just in case, to keep it from sliding, moving around, I would highly suggest switch to your zipper foot, and with your zipper tape facing down, clip all the way across, and then stitch. Do a basting stitch, which is about however high your stitch length go on your machine. I will do at a 4, and then just at 1/8 of an inch baste all the way across the top, just to secure this in place. Or if you don't want to do that, you can go ahead and clip this in place, and then grab one of your interior pieces, doesn't matter which one, and then lay this on top, and then stitch all 3 together. So you'll have your exterior facing up, your zipper facing down, and then your interior facing down, and then stitch all the way across at 1/4 inch seam allowance. So what I am going to do, just to make sure everything is lined up and nothing shifts, I'm actually going to baste this down first at 1/8 inch with a 4 inch, or I'm sorry, a 4 stitch length, and then I will clip this on top, clip it together, and then stitch at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now that your pieces are all sewn together, you want to go ahead and flip the body pieces so they are wrong sides together away from the zipper, and press or finger press well. Because I'm using vinyl, I am just going to finger press here. So you're gonna put it wrong sides together. So you have wrong side of the lining, wrong side of the exterior front body piece, wrong sides together. Give it a good finger press, and then what you're going to do is top stitch along the zipper. So, and I will do this part off camera just to make sure I get this. So you're going to top stitch right along this edge here at approximately 1/8 of an inch all the way to the other end. So just if you're using vinyl, just give it a good finger roll, because you can't press it. Can't press your vinyl. You don't want to melt it. But go ahead and top stitch all the way across the top. Okay, so it is now top stitch here. This is how it looks from the back, because I know you can't see it too well from the front, but as you can see, it is top stitched right along the top there. So, and just for reference, I used, because I know this is the front of the pocket and my other slip pocket has more compartments to it, I just used this pocket against the front of my exterior pocket, but you can most certainly use whichever interior piece you would like against this front piece. And so yeah, now what you are going to do is just repeat the exact same thing you did for this side with your back exterior pieces and your other interior piece, and then you will have one side here and one side here. I will show you what that looks like when it's all done. And I wanted to come back in real quick just to be sure, because I know sometimes this can be tricky. So you have you're doing the other side now. So what you're doing is the finished part that you have, again, get your back exterior piece. Here's the right side of the pocket that you just completed. Lay that right sides down just like you did. Clip all the way across. Go ahead, what I'm doing is basting this in at 1/8 inch at a 4 stitch length, and then I am going to lay on top of here, doing the exact same thing. Clip and then stitch at 1/4 of an inch, and then you're also going to turn it out like you did the other piece and top stitch. Same process, but I just want to show that just in case anybody was confused about, which way do you lay it. Yes, the completed side you just finished goes right on top. As you can tell, the zipper tape is facing down on top of the right side of the back exterior piece. So follow the same steps and complete the other side. Okay, now that you have both your pieces, you have your back and your front all together, everything is sewn together, you've top stitched along the top edge there. What you want to do is open up your zipper. So go ahead, open it. About this much is good. Go ahead and open it, and then what you're going to do is combine your exterior pieces together and combine your interior pieces together, just like this. And what you're going to do is, and just for reference, when you're sewing around here, you are going to make sure that the zipper, here's the zipper, here's our front, here's our interior, our front, our interior. The zipper should be pushed toward the lining side. So when you're sewing, here you see our zipper, push it towards the lining side when you're sewing, just like that. See, I'm gonna do it one more time. So here is the exterior, here's the interior. You want the zipper when you're sewing to be pushed towards the lining. So go ahead, push that towards the lining like that, and clip all the way around this entire perimeter, because what you're going to do is sew all the way around the clipped edge all the way. So you go in here, and remember you have your box corners. So then you'll stitch here, then you'll come over and stitch here, but then you're going to leave a 7-inch gap, because this is where you're going to be turning the bag through on this side. So let me go ahead and get this all clipped, and then I will show you what it looks like. So here's everything clipped. As you can tell, again, that zipper is pushed towards the lining, and you are going to sew down, across, up, all the way over, down, only to about right here. Leave a good amount of room to get your hand through to turn it over, and then finish up on this side. And then also, just to note here, if you happen to have just a little bit of overhang that's from that pocket area, don't worry about it. You can clip that off, no worries. No worries there. And you are sewing this at 3/8 inch seam allowance. So again, you're not sewing the box corners at all, and you're leaving that gap down. But go ahead and sew around at 3/8 of an inch. Okay, now that you have sewn all around and you've left your turning gap, you have excess zipper tape here. Just go ahead and grab your scissors, and you're just going to cut the excess zipper tape off. No worries. And again, if you have a little bit of overhang like this, just go ahead and trim that off as well. Again, no worries about that. Turn her around, trim off the excess zipper tape. So now that we have all of our excess either fabric or zipper tape, you're gonna go ahead and box your corners. And so how you're gonna box your corners is, I have one clipped here so you can see what I'm saying. So when you box the corners, you want to make sure that you nest the seams. Now, I've talked about this before, but this is how it looks. So essentially, you have one seam going this way, another seam going this way. You can see the seam line. When you're nesting, you turn one seam this way, one this way, and those go together, and 9 times out of 10 you will have connecting seams there. So that's all that is with nesting. And what you want to do now is, and be careful on this part, I'll do this part off camera, but for your lining piece to get a good snug fit on the inside of your bag, go ahead and sew your interior at 5/8 of an inch across, and then your exterior at 3/8 inches across. And so both ends 3/8 inch across, and then both ends of your interior 5/8 inch across. And then we're going to do the fun part where we begin to turn this baby inside out. Well, first you do want to trim. Before you turn out, you do want to trim your seams down to 1/4 of an inch on both ends. But I will come back in when I'm ready to do that. Okay, now that your sides are all trimmed on the interior and exterior, it's time to turn her right side out. So you're going to use that opening gap, push your hand all the way towards the bottom, kind of grab your bottom, and you're going to pull it all the way out. Okay, she is turned all the way out. The corners are all boxed. You can, if you have a pointer like this, you can continue to try to, if you're having, especially if you're using vinyl, you want to just make sure those corners deep down in there are all pointed out and everything is nice and square there. But here she is. And so, of course, what you want to do is make sure that your zipper poke your zipper there on both sides. And then you want to close that gap that you have. So you want to pull this back out. Let me flip this over, making a lot of noise. Pull this back out. You want to turn that in. You can press it down if you need to. I am just going to clip it all the way across, stitch it, and push it right back down in there. And then once that is done, your bag will be complete. All right, now how easy was that? So easy. And as you can tell, you can really switch this up, make the compartments different colors. You can color block this any kind of way that you would like. Very easy construction. Let me just share with you real briefly what I put in mine, because I think I mentioned in the video, because I didn't have the matte vinyl to make this all waterproof on the inside, which I highly recommend, especially if you have things that, you know, can easily mark up the inside. If you use vinyl, I mean, you can't wash this, but like it is. But if it was waterproof, you could just easily wipe it out. So for me, what I do plan to do, anything that I put in here, maybe it's a single shadow or something like that, that I think might pop open, I'm gonna put it in a plastic bag first and then put it inside here just to make sure. But let me share with you what I am putting in mine. So typically, so for my lip holder, I have different size lip glosses. And so what I will do, and I have some that are a little thicker as well. There, I made the large in the sew along, as you saw, but that is what I will put in here, and I'll just snap it closed, and that's it. That is what I am putting in here. So far as my Palace makeup bag, I am, for the bag, I put, I don't know, can you see that? I put a bronzer back there, and so yeah, that's what I put back there. I did put a bronzer back there. And then on the front, because I don't have a ton of makeup, and so which many of you may already know, I have this very small eyeshadow palette, which can, let me just show you, it can fit. This is small. If you saw, go out to the website, what kind of palette she put in here was a full size. It was, I believe, Naked Cosmetics full size palette can fit in there. So I could put this in there, but because it's so small, I am just going to put this. I would put something like this, and I only have pretty much 2 palettes. So I would slip this inside my interior pocket. And then I have my Mented Cosmetics palette, which, can we pause for the cause and let me show you these colors? Absolutely gorgeous. Actually just received this in the mail not too long ago, but anyway, so something like this. I just have a couple palettes, so I don't need, it's not going to fit in here because the height of it. But there again, I am going to slip that right on the inside. What I am going to put on the outside, because again, I don't have a ton of makeup and a lot of stuff. I do have my makeup brushes. Let me just show you. There's just a few that I would always commonly use, like some of these small ones like this. What I am going to do, because I can actually reach my hand in the front of this bag, I can reach in there and clean this out. So what I am going to do, if I can get this in here, I am actually going to put my makeup brushes in the front. So you can do that. You can put whatever you like and zips right up. And if they're just a little grimy or dirty, I can just easily wipe that out, or wrap some paper towel around it and slide it in there. But I like how it keeps my brushes from moving all around. So that's how I would use that as well. And then I have my foundation stick. And what I will do is, there is one of the pockets on the inside. This easily fits. Let me just show you. That easily fits right into one of the pockets in there. And then I do have a blush, a small blush palette that can fit right in here as well. And so for me, I don't have a ton of stuff, but I still have a ton of room to put other things in if I really wanted to, like a little holder to put in my Q-tips or maybe cotton swabs or wipes or anything like that. Especially if you're traveling, you can put your little travel wipes in here, but everything is here. And then I can still slip my lip caddy right on in there. So super cute, so super easy, and it makes the absolute perfect gift. And I do love the double zip at the top, the zip at the bottom. I think I did mention, I'll leave a link to the places where I did get the supplies, which these came from my handmade space. But yeah, so super easy. Love this entire set. If you have any questions, do let me know. Leave them down in the comment section. If you make it, definitely tag Justin E. Abby Curry on Instagram and tag me. Let us know that you have made yours, and let's see it. Let's see photos of your Palette Palace bag and your lip caddy, which is your Transcendence makeup bag set, which is a beautiful twist. Isn't this just a beautiful twist on the classic makeup bag? It's just so super cute. So cute. And yes, I can easily see making this as more gifts, especially for my friends that really are makeup junkies or have a lot of makeup. I can see making this for them easily, so that they would love to have like 2 of these different colors and whatnot. So, but I love the way it came together. I love the front vinyl. Of course, you can switch up the colors, the binding around. Again, I use prepackaged binding, but yeah, very nice, very simple. And again, thank you to Abby for the discount. Again, everything is down in the description box. Supplies, that my Amazon store, everything is linked down below. So if you want to just check out some of the supplies, check out the pattern, buy the pattern and all of that good stuff, everything will be linked down in the description box below. Again, if I missed anything or forgot anything, definitely let me know. Yeah, so that is it. Thank you everybody for tuning in today. Don't forget to share this out. Don't forget to like, comment. If you have not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more videos. You all have a fantastic and blessed week, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.